jẹ́ ká gbàdúrà. Ọlọ́run ọba alágbára jùlọ, ẹlẹ́dàá àti alákòóso ayé òun ọ̀run, àwa ń bẹ̀ yín wípé kí ẹ wá ṣe amọ̀nà wa, kí àwa bá lè máa rìn ní ọ̀nà òtítọ́ pẹ̀lú ìfẹ́ àti àánú sí ara wa. Ẹ wá fún wa ní oore ọ̀fẹ́ yín, kí àwa lè máa ṣe gbogbo ohun tí yóò mú ìgbéga, ìṣọ̀kan, ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀, ìdùnnú àti àlékún àìsíkì orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà lápapọ̀ àti ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó ní pàápàá. Àmín. Ẹ káàsán èèyàn lẹ́gbẹ́ mi. Ìdáhùn yìí lọ́sàn-án yìí ó ń já geere. Ẹ ṣe kí ni? Aṣọjọ́ mi lé ní. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fi ètò dáná sí ẹ̀yìn ìpàdé. Jẹ́ kí a ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò àkọsílẹ̀ ti ọjọ́ ìṣẹ́gun ọjọ́ kẹjọ oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 2019. Page 53, page 54, page 55. A ti ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò ìjíròrò ìpàdé tí ó kọjá, a sì fi òǹtẹ̀lú. Olórí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tó pọ̀ jùlọ.
Ẹ ṣé olùdarí, mo kàn fẹ́ pé àkíyèsí wa sí wípé èní jẹ́ àyájọ́ tí a gbọ́dọ̀ lo èdè Yorùbá láti ṣe iṣẹ́ àgbékalẹ̀ ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin. Ṣùgbọ́n àkíyèsí mi ni pé àwọn nǹkan kan wà ní ọjọ́ èní ní abẹ́ ìsọ̀rí àwọn ètò ìgbékalẹ̀ tí ó jẹ́ wípé èdè òyìnbó ni ó máa yára láti lè túbọ̀ fún ní ìtumọ̀. Nítorí ìdí èyí ni mo ṣe fẹ́ dábàá olùdarí wípé kí a so ìsọ̀rí kejì ẹsẹ̀ kọkànlá òfin ilé tí ó fàyè gbà pé Yorùbá ní ká sọ lónìí ká fi rọ̀ kí a lè ṣe ètò ìjókòó yìí ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì. Mo dá a lábàá.
aṣòfin Kásùmù.
ẹ ṣe.
ṣé gbogbo wa ló fara mọ́? ṣé gbogbo wa ló fara mọ́? àwọn tí ò fara mọ́, àwọn tó fara mọ́ ló pọ̀ jù. Any message from the governor?
Right, Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable members, there is no message from the governor.
Any other announcements?
Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no announcement.
Petitions?
None, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Matter of urgent public importance? None. Personal explanations? None. Reports? Honorable Olowo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker,
Before
on
you
the...
please, Honorable Olowo, please. Let me take Honorable Brahim first. Honorable Brahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, the 8th day of October 2019, Mr. Speaker forwarded copies of the petition to the ad hoc committee on human rights, judiciary, public petition last year, which I have the privilege to chair. Mr. Speaker, the petition is titled Petition Against Honorable Moshood Olarewaju Osun, Lagos Mainland Constituency 2, Lagos State House of Assembly, for collecting $200,000 as bribe as hush money to cover up massive breach of contracts in the environment sector. Mr. Speaker, the petition was received by the Speaker the same day, 8th day of October, and forwarded to us the same day. Mr. Speaker endorsed in the petition that we should take immediate steps to unravel the veracity or otherwise of the contents of the petition as quick as possible. Pursuant to that, Mr. Speaker, the committee convened the same day and met to draw out a modus operandi to prosecute that assignment. However, Mr. Speaker, the committee decided to invite those who are directly concerned with the petition. The committee invited the petitioner himself, one barrister Olakunle Omishade of the Stop Corruption Now initiative, a non-governmental organization. Also, the committee invited the respondent, Honorable Moshood Olarewaju Osun. We also invited the environment contractors, Masters Quality Sanctuary Services Limited, Genrin International Service Limited, and Blue Ridge Marine Service Limited, to come before the committee to state what they know and the extent of their involvement in the saga. However, the committee also saluted the Assistant Secretary of the committee and the personal assistant to the chairman of the committee to ensure personal service of the committee's processes on the invited parties. At the resumed sitting of the committee on Wednesday, October 9, the officials who were sent to deliver the processes reported to the committee that it was impossible to locate the address contained in the petition as given by the petitioner That means that the petitioner is faceless and traceless, and they could not effect service of the processes of the committee on the petitioner. Also, Mr. Speaker, it was so frustrating that there was no telephone contact or any other means of communication available on the petition by which we could contact the petitioner. That therefore foisted a fait accompli on the committee, as we could not proceed further without the petitioner coming before the committee to explain or substantiate the contents of the petition. The committee considered this situation and noted with regret that the petitioner could not be reached. Nevertheless, the committee decided to read out the petition and consider it for expatial analysis. The committee noted many discrepancies and many inconsistencies even contained within the petition. The committee's attention was also drawn to the virality of the petition on social media circulating all over the place. The committee therefore observed as follows: that the allegations are criminal in nature. The burden of proof is on the petitioner, and the standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt. That the petition is frivolous, malicious, spurious, and smacks of acrimony, as the petitioner supplied a traceless and faceless address. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed further that anonymous of fictitious petition is difficult, if not impossible, to investigate, because the respondent also has his rights under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Mr. Speaker, Section 35, Subsection 4 and 11 of the Constitution of Nigeria as amended, and also the Evidence Act, does not provides that the accused person does not have to prove his innocence, but the accuser will have to prove the guilt of the accused beyond all reasonable doubt. In the instance, the accuser, who is the petitioner, is not even available to establish his case. Under the rules of the House of Assembly, Mr. Speaker, the petitioner is obliged to disclose his address. Mr. Speaker, I humbly refer you to Order 8, Rule 44, 1D of the Rules and Standing Orders of this hallowed chamber. Mr. Speaker, justice is not a one-way traffic. It flows both ways to the petitioner and the respondent. It is a trite maximum of law, that it is better for 1,000 criminals or offenders to escape justice. Mr. Speaker, sir.
I suppose this should be a preliminary report.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So, the lengthy report you are giving, maybe we should just wait till you compile your report and bring it.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I will therefore summarize, sir. Let me quickly go to the recommendation of the committee, sir. I'm just trying to lay a premise for our conclusion and recommendation. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommends that because the petitioner is faceless and traceless, and because it could not be found to substantiate these allegations, that the petition be struck out for want of diligent prosecution or any at all. Mr. Speaker, we also recommend, sir, that the public be advised to demonstrate due diligence and seriousness when approaching the House of Assembly or any other state mechanism for justice and relief. Anonymous and fictitious petitions constitute abuse of legislative processes. We also say that it's a cybercrime for anyone to circulate or disseminate on substantial matters on the internet or social media, and the public is advised to take heed of this. We thank the Speaker and the Honorable House for giving us the opportunity to serve, and that is our recommendation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Desmond.
Good afternoon, my right honorable speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity given me to speak to this subject matter. Sir, I must commend the ad hoc committee for quickly getting this report out, and also the right honorable speaker for swinging into action. And I believe one of the reasons is because we do not take this institution lightly. we do not take the fact that the protection of this institution that we've given ourselves to uphold is taken seriously. Mr. Speaker, the Lagos State House of Assembly prides itself as operating above the standard of excellence. And in that, we have core values. Our values are accountability, justice, probity, and transparency, amongst other core values. In other words, we do not just base petitions on baseless assumptions. We make sure that all assumptions are taken away. We make sure that the institution is being protected. In other words, we make sure that justice for the accused and the accuser is being upheld. In this case, we do not have a face to this petition, to the petitioner. We don't have an address. I want to just say that Honorable Tunde Braimo has said more than, there's nothing else to say over what he said, other than the fact that if a petition has been brought up, there must be someone to substantiate it. And in an event where that is non-existent, I will also move along the line with him to say that this petition be thrown out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, good evening.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Well, I want to really thank you, the Right Honorable and the House, for being proactive, because it is always good to be at the side of justice. You know, it does not matter that the petition is against one of us in the House, it's against the House, but you quickly did the right thing, that sending it to the appropriate committee of the House. Well, from the report given by the adult chairman on that committee, Honorable Tunde Braimo, it has really shown that the petition itself is baseless, because the address and the telephone number of the writer cannot be found. And it shows that there is no basis for petition. And it has really vindicated us in this House that we are actually doing the right thing. My comment will be a little bit different. I think there is need for us not to be wasting our time on unnecessary things. Things that can never be proven by whoever that might have brought up any petition to the House. And I think we should not be intimidated by action of faceless people. They should be bold enough to come out if there is anything that they have seen that is wrong with the activities of the House, but not to be hiding behind a single finger and be writing something that can never be substantiated. So on this issue, Mr. Speaker, I will advise that the whole of the petition should be thrown out with its entirety, because we cannot, that he has stated it, there is limitation to whatever the committee wants to do. The petitioner cannot be found, except, they are they are ghosts, and I think they are ghosts. So I think we should throw it out and just stop wasting the House time on fruitless activities. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a common knowledge that when a man is saying something and he believes in the veracity of what he's saying, he will be bold to come to the open and claim it self-value. But when you know you are doing something that is wrong, you either cover your face so that the identity will not be known, or you do it surreptitiously so that the activity will not be known. What we have seen, Mr. Speaker, is that from the committee's report, that whoever must have put this together has a sinister motive to have done it. And that's why the person cannot put his name, because he or she will know that he will be put to test to come and prove it, and because they don't have the proof. And Mr. Speaker, I see the motive to be so malicious and scandalous if we follow the trend a petition was submitted to the House with the belief that he wants the House to act on the petition, rather than waiting for the House to take action on it. They went on social media. It has now become fashionable for very cowardly people to sit in a corner and start punching the buttons of their phone just to cause some confusion, which of course the federal government is trying to attack now under cybercrime. Mr. Speaker, the rate at which this thing was circulated shows that there is a motive behind this, not about the allegation, but to embarrass the person that is named and the institution of the House of Assembly. But thank God that Mr. Speaker committed this, and the committee in due diligence has done what he has to do, giving us cogent reasons that is sustainable anywhere, that the person that is accused is not the person who has to prove his innocence. It is the person that is accusing that must show beyond reasonable doubt that the person is accusing has actually done that. And the allegation is not just a trivial allegation, it's allegation that has implication of criminality. So, Mr. Speaker, as said by other colleagues, I want to suggest that we have done what we can do, what we're supposed to do, and it's on record that we have done what we're supposed to do as a House to tell the person, but since they have not come, that means they are not interested in the case ab initio. They are not interested in even pushing the content of the petition, and the House has a lot of things to do than to continue to chase shadows. Mr. Speaker, I also suggest that we take the recommendation of the committee that we should countenance the petition forthwith and continue doing our legislative business as if the petition has not been answered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Olumo.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk on this matter, which I assume that is a diversion plot to take this assembly from its focus to deliver democratic dividends to 22 million Lagosians. This institution, under the right leadership of Honorable Muda Obasa, has been focused, and we have attained giant strides in the last few months that we started. It's a ploy to take us from what we are to do in the right sense of it. I see this petition as very faceless, baseless. I even learned that the address is from mainland, where Honorable Oshun practices local politics. Maybe you are just trying to disrepute the reputation he has built over time because they have their local politics around that area. My own prayer, sir, is to go in line with the committee's recommendation that this petition should not only be thrown out, but should be disregarded completely. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Honorable Tunde Brahma and his team, I sincerely appreciate you, for the quick actions taken to come up with this report. I also want to appeal to each one of us that we should just disregard this, baseless, fictitious, frivolous petition. It's always common. Maybe by my years of experience in this house, we have seen a lot of this in the past. You see petition, you invite the petitioners and the respondent, and at the committee level, the petitioner will start saying something else. It's either he's looking for favor from the respondent, and he couldn't find, cheap way to get to the respondent than to write the petition where the petitioner and the other person will be invited just to pass over his intention and message. And in this case, the petitioner cannot even surface the address on the petition, a fake one. I've received calls even from television station, thinking of running such allegation on their television station without any fact behind it. I think this is wrong. Our media people should also be, on top of their profession. They should be able to scrutinize whatever they get in terms of petition or whatever you have on your social media before you go about spreading such. When you damage people's reputation, their personality, their status, their careers, how do you want to mend it? After you have gone out so far to spread fake news, you don't think about the family of such person, his children, his relatives. So what do you expect such person to tell his family or the children? So I think we have to do something about this. You can't just hide somewhere because you want to get to somebody. For me, I don't even care. So it's becoming, a common or regular thing, writing about the speaker. The same thing happened to my predecessor and the person before him. So I'm taking it. I've been in this house since 2003. As a member of this house, nothing was written about my person. It was like I was in the house like a ghost. But from 2015, I became a speaker. I've started seeing my name in so many, wrong news, fake news. Or maybe as a speaker, it's one of the features of the office of speaker. So me, I'm used to it. But when it now comes to a member, most especially a chairman of a committee set up by this house to investigate something that we believe will serve the interests of the state and the people of this state, and what you get in return is a cheap blackmail. I think it's totally unfortunate. It's totally unfortunate. I'll just appeal to the man that is being mentioned, Honorable Osho. So you should learn or start to develop thick skin. So most of these you just brush aside. You don't allow it to reach you or affect you. But since the petitioner, I'm appealing to the petitioner, if it's not a phantom, and he doesn't want us to consider this petition as a ghost, he should try to show up and prove his point, to prove the contents of that petition, so that the House can take a position on this matter. If not, I will align with the position of the committee that we should just disregard this as a noise. And I want to appeal to my colleagues as well, that you should expect more of this, as long as we try to investigate what has been done in the past, which happened without following due process. And it involves a lot of money, going to billions. Then you cannot rule out something of this nature, because those that are involved will never fold their hands and watch. So they will always throw something on your path to prevent you from getting to the roots of this matter. So I'm appealing to you, as much as we want to serve the people of Lagos, and we want to prevent waste and corruption as stated in the Constitution, we must be ready also to hear something of this nature. Once again, I want to thank the chairman of the committee and his members. I thank you very much for the quick response to this assignment, and also to appeal to the man, Honorable Oshun. Somebody said the address on the petition is also same from where Oshun practices, practices his own politics locally. So I want to urge you, maybe you should extend goodwill to the people in your constituency, so they won't start writing anything about you. Just keep, the good job going, and I'm sure Almighty Allah will see us through. Once again, I thank each one of you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Honorable Olo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, good afternoon. My colleague, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, on the 4th of October 2019, on a Friday, some protesters stormed the House under the aegis Lagos Youth Vanguard, led by Comrade Razak Olukoba. And their prayers are that the ex-while administration of Mr. Akinwumi Ambode should be probed for the following reasons. Number one, that he laid landmine for the successive government by not properly handing over, which practically made continuity practically impossible. That in the projects and awards given out by Mr. Akinwumi Ambode's administration, that he had no regard for the extant laws and precisely procurement laws. That in addition to that, he failed to comply with the appropriation law of the state as passed by this House. That he has increased the indebtedness of Lagos State to such a height that our unborn children future would have been mortgaged through irrevocable standing payment order on some phony projects such as bus acquisition, drainage clearance, and lastly, on Visionscape, that they know we are investigating some of these, but probably the House is under pressure to keep them under the carpet. That they voted for us, and we must be accountable to them. There is a social contract between the electorates and this House, so that they are watching us very closely at ensuring that we do the needful by bringing all these atrocities to the fore and investigate appropriately. So they demand that I pass this to you, and they gave us leaflets to show that they are very serious. With their address, as I said earlier, they were led by Comrade Razak Olukoba. Mr. Speaker, that's the report on the protest led by Lagos Street Banger to this House on the 4th of October 2019. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Honorable. I think these reports, those who came before the House to lodge their complaint, they have address on what they submitted. And this address is verifiable. Okay, and the Olukoba is a known person, it's not a ghost. Thank God, at least you can walk on this. Well, we don't need to be prompted by anybody to continue what we are doing. We have started this. Rather, I want to tell them their effort is a belated one. Because when all this happened during administration of Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, it was in this House that we tagged Visionscape a ghost. But instead of having people to support the position of the House there, rather we have some disgruntled elements who came to protest against the position of the House. But it's still good that we have people who are now realizing that the House is truly serving the interests of the people of Lagos. We will do our best. We are not going to be discouraged. So we appreciate Mr. Olukoba. I don't know who Olukoba is, and I've never met him. I don't think I can identify him, but we thank them for showing interest in the cause of the state. Thank you, Honorable Lo. Our report. Honorable Jibon, say what? Huh?
Mr. Speaker, good afternoon. You said you don't know that Olukoba.
I don't.
Yes, he's one of the young Nigerians whose energy and sacrifices the driving force of the pro-democracy and human rights organization in the country.
Okay.
I know you guys well.
I'm not disputing that. I don't know you in person.
Yeah.
Are you, before I know you are also a comrade? I don't know that. I'm not sure. That I can't confirm now. Honorable Fatai Wajid.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. At the plenary sections of Tuesday, 27th of August, 2019, a 9-man ad hoc committee was set up to investigate the purchase of 820 buses during the administrations of the former governor, Mr. Ambode. The committee discovered that the ministries, departments, agencies of the state government under the leadership of Mr. Ambode jettisoning the due process disregarded the provisions of some state law, namely the appropriation law, the Lagos State Public Procurement Law, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, as well as financial regulations. It was also discovered that Mr. Ambode used the refund from the Paris Club to finance the project in question. And this refund is not known to the appropriation law. Mr. Speaker, with your kindly permissions, I will go to section 120, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It says, no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated revenue fund of the state or any public fund of the state, except in the manner prescribed by the House of Assembly. And I sincerely believe that this refund was not brought before this House. Also, Mr. Speakers, I also like to touch Section 9 of the year 2018 and 2019 appropriation law of this state. The Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Commissioner for Finance, the State Accountant General shall seek and obtain approvals of the House before commencing or incurring any expenditure on a specified head of expenditure listed in Schedule 1, Part C of this law. It was also discovered that Mr. Ambode did not recall to this House before commence the purchase of this bus in question. And the investigation revealed that over 48 billion was committed to this project, excluding the import duty totaling 20.3 billion. And out of 820 buses in questions, 570 is still at the port, lying idle, doing nothing. Mr. Speaker, we also demand for the vouchers for this transaction. The only response that we receive from the Accountant Generals of the state say that I rely on governor's approval. A series of questions was asked by the committee. Does the governor's approval supersede the law of this state? Does it supersede the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? But she was unable to prove it. That was a gross violation of Rule 607 of the Financial Regulation. With your kind permissions, I will read. We say that all payment entry in the account must be vouched. All vouchers made out in the favors of the person to whom the money is actually due. In the case of this transaction, no payment vouchers was made available to the committee. We also demand for the budget instruments they rely on before they commence the building. With your kind permissions, I will go to section 2G of the Public Procurement Law of the state. We said that procurement plan shall be supported by budgetary appropriation. No procurement proceeding shall be formalized until procurement entity has ensured that the funds are budgeted and appropriated to meet the obligations. In this case, there is no budget provisions for this bus in question. With your kindly permissions again, I also go to section 33, subsection 3 of the Public Procurement Laws of the state. In the case of goods and works and services under the National Cooperative Building, the invitation for bid shall be advertised on the notice board of the procuring entity and the state procurement journal not less than 6 weeks before the deadline for the submissions of the bids for the goods, works, and services. There is also gross violations of these sections because we demanded the newspapers where this thing is being advertised, they are unable to produce any copy. Mr. Speakers, with your kindly permissions, I want to also go to section conference readings of section 128 and 129 of 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Empower the House of Assembly to carry out oversight functions
of investigation where necessary to summon anybody to appear before the House. The committee relies on these sessions and invited the following stakeholders. We invited 20, but out of these 20, 16 of them comply, but 4 of them refused to attend to the committee. And also Section 129, subsection C of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria empower us to summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence or provide any document or other things in his possession or under his control and examine him as a witness and require him to produce any document or other things. The following people did not appear before the committee. Mr. Adeyemi Ashadi, the former Commissioner for Finance. Mr. Niyi Kasim, the former Commissioner for Justice / Attorney General. Mr. Abanjo, the former Commissioner for Economic Planning. And Mr. Kodri, the PS Economic Planning. However, Mr. Adeyemi Ashadi and Niyi Kasim submitted a written letter to the committee stating the reason for their absence, while the former Commissioner for Economic Planning and the PS Economic Planning did not write to the committee. On this note, and also we also discovered during the transaction that the former governor, Mr. Akin Ambode, is the chairman of the steering committee. They are 5 in number. The former governor, Mr. Akin Ambode, the chairman, Mr. Niyi Kasim, member, Mr. Adeyemi Ashade, member, and the general manager of the Lagos State Bus Service Limited, Mr. Idowu Oguntono. They are the members of the steering committee. And then most of the time when we ask for vital information from them, they always made mention that they relied on the governor's approval. Due process were not followed for the procurement of these buses in question. It is on this note that we present our interim report, but there's no way we can come out with a comprehensive report without hearing from these people that fail to appear before the committee. And I want to employ the House to direct the Mr. Clerk to write another letter to them so that we can complete this assignment on time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Shah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable colleagues. We would like to give a preliminary report of the 9-man ad hoc committee on economic plan and budget and the media appraisal of the year 2019 application. Mr. Speaker,
I'm sure the big man can use the mic. I know you are very young.
I want to be looking at your face at the same time, sir. Mr. Speaker, on the 1st of July 2019, this House mandated the 9-man ad hoc committee to carry out the exercise of looking at the media budget performance of MDAs and report its findings. Mr. Speaker, we are having difficulties in concluding this exercise because the current officers of the state that are manning the various ministries, departments, and agencies in most cases, even though they know it's asset and liabilities that they have earned or they are supposed to take responsibility for, they can't answer some of these questions and shed light so that we can conclusively know how the monies were spent. I'll quickly run through a few of these issues here, Mr. Speaker. One of them is the unauthorized discounting of the promissory notes of Lagos State. It was observed that 49.150 billion was received from the discounting of the 63.648 billion 3 years federal government promissory notes. This, we strongly believe, is in the breach of Lagos State Public Management Law, Public Finance Management Law, Section 26.5, 5 that states that all revenues and expenditures shall be indicated in the budget with their gross value. In 2018, this occurred as well, Mr. Speaker. That is why we paid attention to what has happened this year. In 2018, there was another promissory note which was 42,432 billion, and it was discounted to 30 billion by the then executive of the state. We complained that the laws of the land states that you must record the entire sum in gross. But we were told by the Accountant General then that they received only 30 billion. The baffling issue we got when we were making this investigation was that when we looked through the report of Accountant General and the financial statement of Lagos State for the year ending 31st December 2018, which is the audited account of the state, note 49, page 32, that same money that was presented to this house as 30 billion was recorded there as 42 billion 432 million 604,000 naira, contrary to what this house was told during the budget session for year 2019. When we asked the Accountant General what happened, she said she acted as she was directed by the governor. Another issue that we observed was the abuse of special expenditure votes. The special expenditure vote is a capital vote that's kept aside within the budget, allowing the executive to attend to emergency situations without having to come back to the house every now and then if need be, or having to go through the full appropriation process. There was a caveat on that, the caveat that as long as the amount is below 200 million, you can spend it, but anything 200 million and above must be brought back to this house for approval. In the first 5 months of the year, the then administration consumed 5.36 billion without a single amount going above 200 million naira. You see situations where you have purchase of 3 vehicles, 35 million, purchase of 3 vehicles, 35 million, purchase of another 3 vehicles, 35 million, 35 million, 35 million, 35 million, 35 million, which is tantamount to contract splitting. Also observed in that during the exercise was this vote is a capital vote, but you find it being expended on recurrent expenditure, people being paid allowances across the state. Expenditure that seems like water under the bridge that cannot be verified. We asked for various documents to substantiate the expenditure of the special expenditure fund. As we speak, we are yet to receive those documents. The monitor will receive them vague. And when we asked the Minister of Economic Planning and Budget what happened, they said they don't know, that they're not the ones there. Well, we didn't agree with them, but notwithstanding, they were not the one there really, but notwithstanding, we still told them they need to give us answer. But we knew they could not answer the question. Also, we have the issue of misapplication of lottery board good cause funds. Lottery board good cause funds was set up to take care of various sectors of the society: education, sport, infrastructure, health, social goods, and the environment. The law specifically said that we should use distribution agents to deploy this money to the community, so NGOs, individuals, or companies that want to carry out activities in the state. This was totally breached. Totally breached. The money was spent without due cause to the law. When we asked the relevant authority then what happened, including the Accountant General, he said it was Governor Ambode that gave our directives on how to spend those funds as at that time. We also have the issue of funding of the rice mill. The rice mill is an issue that came up in 2018. We put it in special expenditure because we were not clear about the expenditure of the cost of that mill. The cost of the mill presented to us was 6 billion. During our investigation, we found out that mill would cost us nothing less than 30 billion naira. But the initial cost was 6 billion. Later this year, another 2 billion was brought to put in special expenditure, requiring that the money approval should be sought before that money was spent. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleague, we discovered that a 10 billion naira loan was taken from CBN under the Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme loan. The 10 billion naira was spent between October 2017 and November 2018, and it was never reported to this House. The people that received the money are Mrs. Bula AG, Siba Construction Company Limited, and Gold Anchor Investment Limited. When we asked the Accountant General why she paid out monies received from the state without, received on behalf of the state without appropriation, she said the governor, via ESCO approval, gave, that's Governor Ambode, then gave her the approval to spend such monies. Also, sir, honorable colleagues, there's the issue of Oshodi interchange. We've mentioned that here before. 25 billion naira was spent on that exchange. That's the interchange, 25 billion naira. Initially, the exchange was supposed to be a public-private partnership between TransLink under Ibile Holdings, between TransLink and Ibile Holdings. Along the line, Lagos State government came in. Lagos State government issued an ISPO to pay 25 billion naira to Planet Projects Limited for that bus. Fortunately, we saw another document with Ibile Holdings listing that same interchange as part of its assets after the state has spent money on it, and we have it on good authority that this is being given to Coscharis to operate when it is eventually completed. Mr. Speaker, we also have a situation whereby under LASIMA LUR, Lagos State government spent money to buy equipment running into billions of naira, but we discovered that this same equipment were given to a company called Advanguard Management Services, and with the equipment paid for by Lagos State, we are paying Advanguard 334 million naira monthly to lease our equipment, maintain our equipment bought by taxpayers' money for Lagos State. When we asked the people in special duties, they said this was done by the last administration and it was under the authority of Mr. Ambode, who was chairman of ESCO. Also, Mr. Speaker, we have the issue
Honorable Isha, also.
Mr. Speaker, permit me to
we
quickly
continue with also the.
Okay, let me just round up with this last point, Mr. Speaker. There's the issue
I
of
just
the
think you
UK.
should go straight to the point you are driving at, because this is supposed to be a preliminary report. So where are we heading to on this? We know you are still coming up with the
Full report.
So just tell us.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, our problem is we are not able to conclude our job because these officers have not shown up. We asked the various ministries to invite them, bring them down so that they can shed light on it, but they have not been able to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, we are asking that this House do invite, because there's also an issue on electricity here, do invite the former Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Shade, the former Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Banjo, the former Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Mr. Oluwo, the former Commissioner for Agri, the former General Manager, Lagos State Electricity Board, and if possible, the chairman of ESCO, because the key problem is the Accountant General is part of the system. She's still in the system now. So if you say we should invite her, she's already come. But every time she comes, she says it's the governor, Mr. Ambode, that gave her authority to do what she had done. There was even a particular time we asked her, are you saying ESCO approval supersedes the appropriation law of this state? Even the public procurement agency, we asked them the same thing. Where is the budget for you to carry out this assignment? They all pointed accusing fingers at the then governor, Mr. Ambode. Whether they are lying, thinking that the man has left, that is why they are making this excuse. I think it is important that he should have his day to explain himself whether he was really part of this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a serious issue. And I feel that if the institution that's overseeing 22 million Lagosians invite people to come and explain their roles in the utilizing the money that's, Commonwealth money that belongs to all of us, and they refuse to come, Mr. Speaker, there is a law that compels the House to issue warrant for them to appear. I think we should do that. I think we should do that, Mr. Speaker. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, I want to run by the two reports just read to our hearing by the members of Honorable Fatai Majid and Honorable Isau. We have a lot of issues at hand, especially the one that borders on the buses. From his report, I discovered that we still have about 570 buses, 520 at bonded warehouse and another 50, with demurrage of an average of 4,000 naira per day. This is daunting, and these buses are not available to teeming Lagosians who are craving for better transportation system. Mr. Speaker, that's one of the pies. Non-adherence to extant laws, especially procurement laws, is a serious case, sir. And incidentally, we have no choice than if you have to go to CNN. Even if they are not in Nigeria, they are away. CNN is worldwide. Maybe we need to place an advert on CNN to invite them to Nigeria. And if they fail at that instance, we have no choice than to invoke the necessary constitutional weapons at ensuring that we compel their appearance in this house. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Honorable Lowe have told me on my line, but I will differ a little bit. I won't go to CNN, but I think we can use our own local method. Actually, before going to
this local method,
maybe we have our own national.
Before I call them from Calabash.
We can use our own national dailies here in Nigeria. We have various papers every morning. I don't want to mention their names here that we can use. So before we are going to be saying we want to issue the warrant of arrest, let us make it on a Nigerian dailies or maybe on our own local channels here, where I believe they will listen. Maybe we should take it from maybe we are out of the country or something, but I think they will reach through our national daily on anywhere they may be. So I think that is my own.
Okay. Honorable Moshood, is your light not? Is your light on? Okay. Honorable Victor Akoni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to avert our mind to section 129 C and D.
I hope there is no lacuna.
There is lacuna, sir. There is lacuna, and the lacuna is what we are trying to unravel. Please, with your kind permission, let me just read section 129, subsection C and D. And it says, for the purpose of any investigation under section 128 of this Constitution and subject to the provisions thereof, a House of Assembly or a committee appointed in accordance with section 103 of this Constitution shall have the power to 1C, summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence at any place or produce any document or thing in his possession or under his control, and examine him as a witness and require him to produce any document or other things in his possession or under his control, subject to all just exceptions. And the D aspect of it, we must not be coward to do our duty diligently. The D is issue a warrant to compel the attendance of any person who, after having been summoned to attend, fails, refuses, or neglects to do so and does not excuse such failure. Refusal or neglect to the satisfaction of the House of Assembly or the committee, and order him to pay all costs which may have been occasioned in compelling his attendance, or by reason of his failure, refusal, or neglect to obey the summons, and also to impose such fine as may be prescribed for any such failure, refusal, or neglect, and any fine so imposed shall be recoverable in the same manner as a fine imposed by a court of law. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee acting in the capacity of Mr. Speaker have summoned all these people before the House Committee, and they have refused. In this wise, I shall be suggesting, sir, that we will invoke subsection 2 of this section. With your kind permission, let me just read and I'll sit down. A summon or warrant issue under this section may be served or executed by any member of the Nigerian police police force, or by any person authorized in that behalf by the Speaker of the House of Assembly of the state.
Sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank the majority leader. The light is on. You want to say?
Mr. Speaker, I just want to observe that the preliminary report and the comment of some of our honorable members before the constitutional provisions read by the Speaker. There are three issues. One, inviting these officials to come before the House of Assembly. They have refused. The Constitution provides that if they do not come, they can be summoned. If after being summoned they refuse to come, then warrants can be issued. I think the suggestion by some other honorable members that have spoken before me is still in line with the constitutional provision, and suggesting that they can be summoned through national dailies places there, so that though that could be said to be substituted service, but at least it is still permissible under the law. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the issue of issue warrant can only come after we have summoned and they refuse to come. So I want to align with those who have suggested that we can actually summon them to come using the national daily. We are people representing the people of Lagos State, and we are doing our job in line with the Constitution. A lot of negligence has been going on, and of course people are complaining. To be able to fill in this gap, I think what we are doing is in the best interest of the state, and we should do it as prescribed by law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Majority Leader. Well, I want to thank the chairman of the committee, both Honorable Mojid and Honorable Shaw, and those who have contributed. And I strongly believe this is beyond issue of warrant. It's something that has to do with the reputation of this institution. Where an institution of this nature invites, people who have served and who also enjoy the support of this institution while serving in public office, now choose to ignore the invitation of this institution. I think it's a dangerous situation. It's a very dangerous one in the sense that allowing these people to get away this is like setting a precedent for those who are serving now. because the same thing can still happen in the future, and they may also likely to follow similar steps, and that is why we just have to address this, you know, drastically. Well, I want to appeal to the clerk to write those who are involved, starting with the former governor of the state, Mr. Ambode, and the rest of them who have been mentioned by the committee chairman, to appear before the committee. Maybe, I don't know, by this end of today or tomorrow, the letter should fly. And if they fail to respond to such invitation, we can now make a publication in all national dailies stating clearly that they are being summoned to appear before the House. After that, if they fail also, then the House will be forced to issue warrants of arrest, starting from Mr. Ambode to the last one of them, if they fail to honor this House. This House is not going to be cowed, and this House, we will not allow it to be toyed with by anybody. Which doesn't matter who the person is. So, Mr. Clark kindly issue letter inviting them for the second time, I don't know, or the third time. And if they fail to appear by the date you fix on that letter, then go ahead and make a publication on our national dailies inviting all of them. And after that, we will be forced to issue warrants of arrest on each one of them. I want to thank the chairman of the committee and committee members again. And I want to appeal to you not to be discouraged. You should continue with your assignment, and we'll get to the roots of all this. I thank you once again. Thank you. Yeah, Majority Leader.
Distinguished colleagues, with the pronouncement of Mr. Speaker on the reports given, we come to the end of the session for today. And I wish to move. Oh, Mr. Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move that the House adjourn till the
you have to, the rule is suspended.
Yes, the rule is suspended for Yoruba.
Yeah, you suspend it.
You want us to come back to Yoruba? Okay. I take the hint of the Right Honourable Speaker. Having satisfied the purpose for which the rule to speak Yoruba was suspended earlier, I want to move that the said rule, Order 2, Rule 11, be resuscitated. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Olumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Olùdarí, ní báyìí a ti gbé ètò amúṣẹ́ṣe tòní, a ti gbé dé èbúté ògo. Mo dẹ̀ fẹ́ fi àkókò yìí sọ fún àwọn ẹlẹgbẹ́ mi wípé mo ní ìyọ̀ǹda olùdarí ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin láti dábàá wípé ká mú ìpàdé ìjókòó wá sí ìpamọ́ títí di ọjọ́ 14 oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 2019 ní dédé agogo 12 ọ̀sán. Mo dá a lábàá.
Aṣòfin Lórẹ́yìn.
Ẹ ṣe olùdarí mo dìde láti kó àbá náà lẹ́sẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí mo dìde láti di àbá náà lẹ́sẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí olùdarí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tó pọ̀ jùlọ ṣe sọ.
Ṣé gbogbo wa ló fara ṣé ṣé gbogbo wa ló fara mọ́? Àwọn tí ò fara mọ́, àwọn tó fara mọ́ ló pọ̀ jùlọ. Kí tó gbéra sọ, ìpàdé kékeré á wáyé nítorí ìgbà tí a bá mú ìjókòó tòní wá sí òpin. A sún ìjókòó ilé síwájú títí di ọjọ́ ajé ọjọ́ 11 oṣù kẹwàá ọdún 2019 ní dédé aago 12 mo gbéra sọ.